Another thing I mentioned right at the end of the show yesterday, I quoted a headline and noted it without comment. A former inmate at GITMO, Guantanamo Jews used witchcraft on prisoners and made me feel a cat was trying to penetrate me. And I had a couple of listeners say, "Oh, come on, you're just making this stuff up." No, because you can find the full transcript now. It was an interview on Al-Jazeera with Walid Mohammed Haj, who was released from GITMO, and unfortunately he didn't get the same deal the Uyghurs got, where they relocated him to Bermuda at US taxpayer expense. This guy had to go back to the Middle East. So he's Walid Mohammed Haj, and he's telling the Al Jazeera interview, he goes, "Yes, the most common method to wear down the brothers was witchcraft." And the interviewer goes, "How did they do this?" And Walid Mohammed Haj goes, "There were Jews among the staff of the Guantanamo base, and they would set traps. Witchcraft was used on most of the guys, but by the grace of Allah, through frequent reading of the Quran and invocations of the names of Allah, we managed to withstand this." So the interviewer, instead of saying, "Okay, that's all we got time for," because, like, you got to figure the Al Jazeera guy, right? He must know. Either he thinks this is very plausible, because most of us, when the guy starts talking like this, we'd realize, okay, this isn't going to look so good for the kind of cause of jihad and the iniquities of the Americans. But instead, the Al Jazeera interviewer goes, "How did you know that somebody was under a spell?" And Walid Mohammed Haj goes, "Well, for example, somebody would take his clothes off all of a sudden. A person would suddenly see his brothers and sisters naked before him." And the Al Jazeera guy asks, "And they weren't really there?" "Oh, absolutely not. It was as if he was in a different world. I remember an incident with a guy who sat next to me. When they brought the milk, he began to urinate into the milk. I said to him, 'Why are you urinating in the milk?' That's when we knew he was under a spell. After he had recovered a little, after we read Quranic verses to him, he said to me, 'The birds on the barbed wire would talk to me and tell me to urinate in the milk. When the guards pass by my cell, the sound made by their pants talks to me.'" The sound made by their pants talks to me. That's what we're doing now. Now, I hope Amnesty International and the NGOs are up on this. That the guards at GITMO have got talking pants to wind up the jihadists. Okay, this is just like the detainees. I hope there's pro bono lawyers all across the eastern seaboard who are recognizing that not only is Obama failed to shut down GITMO, he's introduced new torture techniques. Okay, we're not just playing Christina Aguilera CDs to them like we did in the hated days of the Bush-Cheney regime. We've now got guards with talking pants, according to Walid Mohammed Haj, an alumnus of Club GITMO. And the interviewer goes, "Did they ever use witchcraft on you?" And he goes, "Once when I was sleeping, I suddenly felt that a cat was trying to penetrate me. It tried to penetrate me again and again. I recited the Quran verse again and again until the cat left." Walid Mohammed Haj, freed from GITMO, to tell the truth about what is going on there. Why couldn't Eric Holder have let this guy be tried in New York? That would be the trial of the century. That would be a hotter ticket than Spider-Man the musical. I would love to hear Walid Mohammed Haj's testimony in his court case in New York. That is what we're up against here. And as I said, the fascinating thing to me about that is that the Al Jazeera guy is just sitting there nodding his head thoughtfully as if, you know, he's getting some real hot dope exclusive here on all the Jew witchcraft that's being practiced on the blameless detainees at Guantanamo Bay. But here's the thing for you, for President Obama, who says that Guantanamo is the biggest recruiting tool for jihad on the planet. Okay, so you close it. Let's say you close it, and you house these guys at a minimum security prison in Florida, say, or Illinois, or wherever you want to put it. Do you really think that they're not then going to be going back to Al Jazeera and still telling stories about secret Jewish cats trying to penetrate them after the Jews have used witchcraft on them? In other words, let's accept your absurd proposition that Guantanamo Bay and what goes on there is the biggest recruiting tool for jihad. Do you think listening to Walid Mohammed Haj telling his fellow Middle Easterners all about the Jew witchcraft at Club Gitmo, do you really think that's going to go away when you put them in a nice minimum security prison in Illinois or wherever it is? Because I get the feeling that, you know, Walid Mohammed Haj would have just as interesting stories once he got back from the minimum security prison in Illinois. Mark Steyn, yeah, cats do cats do have 9 lives. Mr. Snerdley says that is a lot of penetrating. It's true. I don't feel they need feline Viagra, do they? You know, when a cat is all tuckered out, one of the other 8 lives kicks in, and he's yeah. But that is true. If you feel yourself being penetrated by a cat, just read the Quran. It generally works. I find that. It's not. By the way, it doesn't work with every animal. Like if you're walking in the woods to ensure your maple syrup sap lines are secure from terrorists, and you find some horny bull moose coming on at you, don't read the Quran to him, because it doesn't work on a moose. It just gets them turned on. You really don't want to. You don't want to try that. It doesn't work with anybody. But as the CIA would say, WTF? WikiLeaks Task Force. WikiLeaks Task Force. This is, by the way, the crack intelligence unit. We talked about that yesterday. The director of national intelligence, with Diane Sawyer. The director of national intelligence of the global superpower, she asked him about the biggest terrorism story of the week. He looks like a deer in the headlamps. He looks like a jihadist in the headlamps when a big tabby cat is coming on to him. He hasn't a clue what she's talking about.